And you were talking about Tiger King, but you were saying like the deviation, and I can see it. I watched it, and well, I think it was first 7 episodes. I think they released like a bonus episode, episode 8. I haven't watched that part yet. I'm curious to see what that is, but I wasn't gonna watch it because it just seems like trash, right? The way everybody was watching it, it seemed like trash. I'm like, the whole way they were marketing it, I was like, man, this is not something I want to watch. It's not going to benefit me mentally. I'm not going to enrich my life by watching this. But then I was like, you know what? I'll watch it. So I wanted to have some context to one. It's really crazy because we were planning on having you on before there was ever a Tiger King, right? So the fact that had we had you on prior to Tiger King, we probably wouldn't even be talking about it in this way, right?
Right.
Exactly.
So it's really an interesting thing, but when I watched it, it really, I felt like it turned into a drama, murder mystery, this whole crazy, I mean, like it's like watching a car wreck.
Well, from my perspective, it makes sense from the entertainment industry because it's really just a documentary about why people that are meth addicts shouldn't own tigers.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably.
Well, you haven't watched it, right?
I haven't seen it yet, but I know the premise of it.
Yeah.
And I'll probably watch it. But I just, to me, I look at that as it's just a form of entertainment. It's not. It has no important message to it. You know, it's just either capitalizing on white trash people that do a lot of meth and got in the tiger business. I mean, they were in a business they had no business to be in.
They talk about this much. I mean, I don't know.
But I'm sure there are people that were good people in the documentary that unfortunately got caught up in that crazy documentary.
I don't know, what, 5 minutes out of the whole thing? I don't know if you've watched it, but maybe 5 minutes of the whole thing they talk about.
I had to watch it after I got, we got so many questions and our donors were concerned, and that I think the message for that film was that every person that's, with big cat facilities are crazy.
Yeah, and that
was the other side
problem.
of it. Yeah, it said all big cat owners are crazy. Like that.
Oh, it did say that?
Oh, it did. Yeah.
Oh,
the first sentence I think of the film was.
Yeah. They're all off or they did that, and then they did a few other things though.
But is that referring to people in the general public that own big cats?
No, these guys are going after sanctuary owners, zoo owners, roadside zoos, and they lumped so many phenomenal organizations in with so many awful ones.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And it was very tough for the general public to figure out who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. And Joe, the gentleman Joe Exotic, he's just such a charismatic character. He talks about a gun-toting redneck as homosexual, and he's just so many different things together. And they talked about how he tried to run for president and how he tried to become governor. And,
he does a lot of meth too, right?
Yeah.
So he's like a narcissistic.
A lot of drugs on that property.
Yeah.
Whenever he lost that lawsuit to Carol, he was taking his items that Carol had potentially won in that court case and throwing them up in the air and shooting at them and saying, "You're never going to get my stuff." I mean, there was some serious mental issues there that were not addressed. That person should not own a gun, let alone big cats, an entire facility of big cats, where he is allowing the general public to interact with them. And they pegged Big Cat Rescue as being this awful organization, but, and I know Carol and Howard very well. I've been to their property before, we've had dinner together, and phenomenal people. And they made it seem as though that they were doing something bad. They sued Joe for $1 million because he was abusing animals, but they made it seem as though they were trying to shut down all good sanctuaries, and they deemed Joe to be a good guy and Carol to be a bad person.
Oh, wow.
So it's very strange to see that. I mean, they showed a couple things they ended up doing was they showed the meat grinder that was massive in there. She had a meat grinder that was like $30 from Walmart.
Right.
That did 1-inch cubes. So that was not even on the property to try to make it seem as though she harmed her husband. And then they showed just the catch pen areas on her property instead of the habitats. So the area that they shift the animals into when they go in and clean the acres and acres of land. And Big Cat Rescue's property is far larger than what Joe's was, but they made it seem as though Joe had.
Right.
They didn't show the 10-foot by 10-foot crates that Joe had lined up. They only showed the one habitat that he had that was actually full size.
Right.
So it's very strange that they chose to do the documentary in that way, to try and make Big Cat Rescue seem as though they were an unreputable organization.
So it's not really it's more like a docudrama.
It's definitely about factual people, not about animals.
Yeah.
No, they I mean, it's like watching a train wreck. Like
someone needs to make a documentary that is factual about what you do. That would be.
They need to do a response to that one.
Yeah.
something. That's what needs to come
Well, just
out
something
next.
that's not dramatized like that.
Yeah.
Something that's factual, shows the importance of what you're doing,
Yeah.
of your types of charities, and the problem with individuals owning big cats, and that you guys are coming in and it's the same thing in Florida with snakes. With these pythons and stuff. People buy these snakes and they get huge, and they just let them out into the environment. And they're an invasive species. They're destroying Florida.
Yeah.
And
it's so tough to control now, and I don't think we'll ever be able to.
No,
it's
it's part of the habitat there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Carolina Tiger Rescue in Pittsburgh, they rescued 2 tigers that were walking some highway near Charlotte years ago. So, and those animals had one of them had a patch of fur missing, so it indicated they were thrown out of a moving vehicle.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And so this problem is big even in North Carolina, and North Carolina is one of the 5 states right now that has no laws against owning any big cat at all.
Yeah.
Is there a big problem with that here, though? I've never heard of it being an issue here.
Well, locally where I live on Lake Norman in Mooresville.
Mm-hmm.
So in that area, and I don't know how you feel about this, but like there's this place called Lazy Five Ranch.
Are they still
I've
open
heard of
now?
They are. They
Okay.
are. But to my knowledge, and then there's one up near Troutman. So Lazy Five is like more like a drive-through thing, but you're not allowed to interact.
Right.
I think don't the animals stick their head in your car?
Yeah,
or
they
something?
can. They can. Yeah. So I don't know.
I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been invited there a couple times with some friends, and never got a chance to go. But yeah, I wouldn't have enough info to comment on that.
Well, it's just something for you to look in afterwards. That, and then there's one in Troutman, and I think they've got a zoo. I don't know enough about them either to know. They've got a zoo fill, but they did have they had a baby, I think, tiger for a while, for like 2 or 3 months that they were doing Christmas photos with. Not this Christmas, but the previous Christmas.
Yeah, see, that is so dangerous to do because that one makes people want to go buy them as pets, so that fuels that people to go out and figure out where can I buy one of these animals.
Right.
And if you watch Tiger King, the one message you got is that these facilities don't keep all of them.
That's
so
right.
That raises the question of where exactly did they go?
So they're either being sold or killed or...
I went to a tiger rescue place one time. I won't say which one it was, but I went years ago, like a decade ago at least, maybe over a decade ago, and we could hold the tiger cubs and stuff, and they were cute, but they're not like a domestic animal. They feel tough. Like the fur feels wiry. Like you can tell this is a really powerful little animal. Even the cubs were like this thing could jack me up, and it's a little baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all those facilities, I mean, this is such a huge market. So anytime that you can, we know of facilities that's charge $600 to have like a 15-play session. So if you go in with like a family of 4, I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That generates a lot of wealth for people. But you can only utilize that animal for 16 weeks. So USDA doesn't allow you to use that animal after 4 months. That big cat might live 25 years in captivity.
Wow.
And so that raises the question of, a facility that has cubs all year round.
What's the future of those
very
cats?
dangerous to
Right.
those animals because there's no way that they're keeping all of them.
They're purposely breeding the cubs.
What are they doing
For
to
that-
them? Likely, are they selling them or?
Yeah, they're selling them. I mean, Joe sold a lot of them. There's a place in Thailand that shut down that recently opened back up called Tiger Temple, and they marketed themselves as being monks and they were very peaceful people. And then whenever National Geographic and other larger entities investigated them, they found tigers in tiny little wine bottles for tiger wine. They found traditional medicine sections inside and bunkers where they were grinding tiger bones up and feeding them to people as some form of aphrodisiac, that this is something that's
There's a lot
going
of
to
weird
benefit
stuff
you.
like that around the world.
Wow.
It's very strange. And, the fact that, and then there's people that start selling trinkets and fur coats and a variety of other things. And you have to imagine that those animals are coming from a place that is breeding them all year round. And
Right.
they have cubs that are the same age. This is such an abusive practice. So it causes the mother to miss her cubs and that she thinks that they've passed away. So she remains in heat. So she is just a breeding machine for these people. She doesn't live very long, couple years maximum of a horrible life in a tiny cage. And if she dies during the mating process, they just put another female in there.
Wow.
And those cubs are starved so that you can do the, hey, would you like to feed this animal? Because if that cub is fed, then they're not gonna want to drink from the bottle that you're feeding them. So that's another horrible practice going on. So they're starving these animals. Cubs are supposed to sleep 18 hours a day whenever they're born, 18 to 20 hours a day. And this animal's up all day with lights in their face, and they're going to die in 6 months anyway, or be sold or shot and killed. And so they are is a very abusive practice.
Wow.
So any facility that has cubs all year round, that's red flag number one.
Gotcha.
I should not support this facility.
Gotcha.
Good to know.
That's good to know, because honestly, I will say this: I feel like the show that they launched, I feel like they probably convinced a lot of people to talk under the guise of it being in support of this bill, or like you said, like this thing's going to reveal this negative thing that's going on in the country. But I will say, at minimum, it got me. I'm like, there's a lot of craziness going on right now. So at least it may have brought awareness, even though I don't think that's what dominantly happened in the United States. I feel like the most part of this, people are getting this meth addict or meth infested place that this guy's married 5 people, and I feel like they've got all that, and that's what all the memes and all the stuff. It's all about that, and less about the premise of what it was supposed to be. But I feel like on some level, it's got me asking and us talking about, well, what is a red flag? And that's a good point. The place I'm mentioning at Troutman, to my knowledge, they don't have them year round. They've only had it the one time. But I don't know. Now I'm curious.
Yeah. So anytime that you rescue an animal, I mean, no.
But they shouldn't have the human that petting that 15-minute. That's I can see that, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, I'd love to have a pet tiger.
Yeah, I'm sure those families leave, and the first thing to do is hop on Google and figure out where they can buy one from, and
they don't realize what that is, what that means.
Yeah, and the more and more the Big Cat Public Safety Act is talked about, and it would stop those people from being able to breed. And GFAS is an entity that is the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries. They forbid you from breeding. So any true sanctuary will not breed.
Right.
Interesting.
Because they're not going to breed animals for lives in cages. They're going to rescue an animal that was already bred, that has nowhere to go, and give them a place to be, content. And they're essentially nursing homes for big cats, basically, sanctuaries. But sanctuaries are a very temporary solution.
Yeah.
So if I rescue, 1,000 animals in my lifetime, and we have multiple facilities at the end of my life, we failed.
Well, until there's legislation to stop people from buying them, then there's no you have to cut that off.
Yeah, there's no deterrence factor at all in place right now.
Because your facility, you have 50-some acres. How many big cats could you keep at your sanctuary?
So 1 acre is 208 feet by 208 feet, and we were going to do 4 animals per acre for big cats.
Okay.
And our small cat habitats are 30 feet by 40 feet. And it just depends on which animals get rescued together. If they're rescued in a group of 3, we'll keep them together. If they're rescued solo and they're very dominant and they don't want those interactions, we'll have them separated. And then we also have a portion of the property we're building for animals that are just so abused that they don't want anyone to see them on tour.
So you guys could potentially sanction or provide sanctuary for 200-some animals.
Yeah, pretty easily.
Maximum.
So you were talking about, hey, if you get to the end of your life and you've successfully saved 1,000 animals, you failed. What was the next part of that?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that we wanted, like when someone asked, like, what's your goal, what's your end game, it's to go out of business. And we haven't even started yet. So if we can get successful enough to get the Big Cat Public Safety Act passed and allow there to be a real deterrence factor in place in the United States where these animals are not being bred anymore, they will still be bred illegally. But the influx of animals that are coming in, USDA will have a reason to actually investigate some of these organizations.
Right.
So no big cat facility should be there. And I've talked to different sanctuary owners, and me being the youngest one of that group, some of them have said, it would be such a privilege for you in your lifetime to come down here and tear down what I've built, if it's possible, if we're successful enough. So no one wants to do this stuff.
Right.
This is a necessity. It's not something that we enjoy doing. It's not something that is fulfilling to us because we're seeing so many animals being abused.
Right.
But it's an absolute necessity. So if 50 years from now we can shut down, then we were successful. That's a success. But if we are still getting tons of animals coming in, then we didn't do a good job of stopping it at the root. We're just a temporary solution.
Surely
Right.
by then that'll be. I mean, we have so much access to knowledge and information now. Even talking about the documentary and all the negative stuff that came out of it, you still are able to get accurate information out now because of the internet and
Right.
formats like this. So
Yeah.
hopefully that will encourage that type of legislation to prevent these things in the future.
We hope so. I talked to Howard Baskin on the phone. I'm sure you remember him from the
Oh yeah.
docuseries, and he expects that there will be a positive impact from all of this once things settle down and people stop talking about Carol versus Joe. And do you remember the scene where they showed the owner of ZWF, Mario, in there?
Yep.
They didn't talk about any of his animals. The only thing they showed was a 5-minute clip of him talking about cutting a dead body up
Yep.
to promote the fact that, big cat people are crazy. They didn't talk about his facility. They didn't talk about anything about him. And so I feel as though once people calm down from the people aspect of it and they get back to the animal aspect of it, they'll
Right.
be like, okay, now we know what we need to do to be able to help animals.
I feel like and maybe I'm sure they did it by design, but I'm betting that a lot of people are pissed about the way it came out. Some of the people that were involved because
Oh, everyone's pissed I was involved.
yeah, it sounds like they literally asked this array of questions over an extended period of time, and then they snuck in these little things, and they only took
They
little
cut
bites.
it a certain way.
And they cut it a certain way and only took little pieces to help portray this narrative that they were trying to, portray about all cat
Yeah.
people and, big cats and all this other stuff.
Sounds
So,
like the documentary is about one bad guy, but they made all these good people look bad.
Yeah, especially, Big Cat Rescue is at the center. They're pioneers, so they're the ones that went after these people. And they had no fear of doing so, and they're just savages when it comes to you will not exploit an animal.
right.
And, when it's one entity being interviewed and saying, we're the good guys, but there's multiple facilities that are breeding animals all year long. The animals disappear off their property. USDA is not investigating them properly. Whenever all of those entities come together and say, no, Carol's the bad person, Big Cat Rescue's the bad person, Howard and those guys are bad, it makes the general public believe that
Yeah.
Big Cat Rescue and the fact is actually bad. But it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, who was it I saw recently interviewing a lot of these people, too, that may be a positive thing, too. It's a comedian. What's his name?
He played in Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
Him. What's his name?
David Spade.
David Spade, yep.
He's been interviewing a lot of these people, too, and I think maybe trying to get out some of the truth.
Yeah, so someone sent me a link to one of those. I haven't watched it yet, but I know that some celebrity posted that David Spade should play Joe Exotic in a film. And, now they're creating like Halloween merchandise for Joe.
Yeah, that's actually what I was getting ready to say. You're going to have the negatives to this are all the memes and all the crap. I think that's what's going to happen. This Halloween is going to be overrun with it. I feel like that's the real negative is.
Well, he is a funny character. I mean, like.
Oh yeah, I mean,
There's a lot of humor in who that person is.
Oh, yeah, he's an excellent, just charismatic individual that plays the
He's
victim so
insane.
well. I mean,
Yeah.
it's insane to where you can convince men that are not homosexual to live with you and marry you because of the way in which you talk and the word
Yeah.
choice that you
Meth
have.
does crazy things.
yeah, the drugs too.
Yeah.
These people weren't stable, but and I don't remember when he ran for governor, he got like 24% or something,
Which is insane.
of the population to vote for him, like some crazy number. I'm like, what?
Makes you lose hope in humanity.
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on? But who knows, man? Unfortunately, there's a lot of fame that he's getting from this, but I still think at the end of the day, when people,
the truth will come out.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I hope so. But, the truth was in that docuseries as well, in bits and parts. You could
Small, yeah. You had
could
to
see
really,
him killing animals
Yep.
that they found in his backyard.
yep,
And people saw all those horrible things that he did.
yep,
And I mean, there were times where he was in a habitat and he shot his gun in the air. He told that tiger, "I will shoot you in the face,
Yep,
you
yep.
bitch," and like
Oh, yeah.
cursing them out and all
Yep.
this crazy stuff. It's insane how people have bypassed seeing all that stuff and saying, he's not a bad guy. And
Yeah.
it's insane to me how well they did that documentary to make it seem as though he's the victim in all of
Yeah.
this.
No, there's definitely a lot of crazy. Like I'm watching this guy, I'm like, man, this guy's about to explode. This guy's about to self-destruct.
Yeah.
Well, in some way, that's a successful docudrama because it upsets a lot of people. It gets people excited.
Yeah, it gives someone
It's
something to talk
clearly
about.
nonsensical. I mean, I think I hope people don't look at that as like a great source of factual information.
Oh, they are. I mean, there's some donors that have been donating to us for years, and I started off selling like our Wildcat Rescue T-shirts in my dorm, and the people that have been rocking with us for 7 years, they called me and they were like, "We're gonna stop donating. We need answers, and we need to figure out what's going on."
You've cleared that up, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but the fact that those guys
Wow.
can see, I mean, they have watched us get a 56-acre property. They've seen us, and we have no debt. So that's another thing that they really like about it. All of our stuff is very transparent, and we let them know we don't want to have $1 million in loans when we bring big cats on that property because it can get nasty quick
Yeah,
for
oh
those
yeah.
animals. So, and they knew all of this stuff, and they watched the fact that celebrities started posting about us. I mean, this is the same guy that called me when Leonardo DiCaprio posted about us one time and saying, like, did you see this post? You were tagged in this? And, he was getting excited about this stuff, and he called and said, "Hey, I'm confused. This documentary is powerful in a negative way."
Yeah, but it sounds like it'll get cleared up, and unfortunately, we live in a knee-jerk society too, with cancel culture and all that. So everybody's afraid to look bad or support the wrong thing. But I mean, I've known you for over a year, and we did a thing with you for a charity event that was very successful. And
Oh yeah, hashtag Chris Gordon, baby.
yeah, at the Comic Dimension. And but I mean, you obviously have a lot of really good connections, with your charity, and you have a good name, and like you said, you're transparent, so it's clear that you're doing the right thing, and you're getting the right message out. I think people sometimes they just jump to conclusions, and then you give it a little time, let the air settle, and then or let the dust settle, and then people they realize, okay, well, this was just misinformation. Everything's fine. It's not.
Yeah, see, we had some uncertainty within the county as well. So Columbus County was like, what have we gotten ourselves into? Some people, the general public.
Oh, yeah.
Not the head of economic development, not Gary Lanier, not the town council, not those guys that helped us to get there, because we did a very big safety presentation and 2 public hearings to get settled in there. But it caused a lot of uncertainty for the general public there, where they're like, man, are they going to allow interactions? Are they going to be breeding and killing animals? And
Yeah.
are they going to make people disappear? And, like, what all is going on here? And so, yeah, I do think that there's going to be some more negative consequences to the docuseries before there's positive ones.